Welcome to the 1 1/3 mile long concrete oval here in Nashville, Tennessee. It's Nashville Super Speedway for round number 4 of the 2022 B Elite Mega Driver 86 INDYCAR Series. My name is Rich Kosla, joined tonight by Justin Cox for the first time in the booth here on the Elite Racing Network. Excited to bring you all the action here from tonight's Nashville Indy 200. 200 laps here. Around this exciting racetrack. Justin, want to give you the chance to introduce yourself here, and we're excited to have you in the booth.
Okay, so my name is Justin Cox. I'm going to be the assistant broadcaster here with Rish. So I'm a part of the Indy Boys Racing podcast. If anybody tuned in the other day, Tristan was on for the NASCAR one, or the NASCAR race the other day. So I'm excited, and I think this is going to be, honestly, a really great race. So I'm excited to get into this.
Absolutely. Looking forward to seeing how it plays out. The big news heading into this event is going to be the fact that the man who won the last 2 races, Joshua Chin, is not in the field tonight. Did not qualify, so your championship leader there missing his second race of the season, and this doesn't get to go towards his bye. So a little bit unfortunate there, but it opens up a big window here for another driver to take an opportunity. And let's look at the starting grid. And how about opportunity for Adriano Pinheiro, the man who won the opening race of the season at Michigan in that 56 car, looking to go for a second win of the season on one of these larger ovals. He's going to have to do that tonight over the course of the next 200 laps, but he starts in the best position. He lines up alongside Eric Troiano with Chad Frankenfield and Chris Wright making up that second row. Keep an eye out on Chris Wright. That's a great qualifying performance from a guy who right now is struggling with a right foot injury. Ethan Stanley and Jared Rexing round out that third row with Dalton Fredericks, Joe Hutchings, Alex Vandesant, your defending series champ, Nicholas Sudik, rounding out your top 10, and Rodrigo Franzoni and Justin Fortner making up row number 6. Justin, want to take us through the next couple of rows?
Oh, yeah, that sounds great. So starting P13, we have Cesar Cabral. Starting P14, AJ Musselman. 15, we have Nick DeGroot. 16th, Thiago Benedetti. 17th, we have Victor Del Porto. 18th, we have Kevin Burrell. 19th, we have Eric Macedo. 20th, we have Michael Hosak. 21st, we have Yari Brapakar. 22nd, we have Delos Toledo. 23rd, we have Dustin Dwyer. And 24th, we have Ryan Schuld.
All right, we'll run through the rest of the grid here as the pace car, though, comes off the racetrack. We're about ready to get underway here at Nashville Super Speedway, and we are, as Adriano Pinheiro hits the gas pedal, and we are underway. So good start for that inside line. Eric Troiano, though, your outside pole sitter, very slow reacting to Pinheiro, and so here we go. He's already dropped 2 positions from the drop of the green flag in just 2 corners, but a big spread already up front.
It's going to be interesting to see how this battle is going to turn out here as we get into this race, because looking at it, it looks like you can use the draft pretty efficiently here is what I would most likely have to assume. But yeah, it's going to be interesting because as you see the car, the number 15 at Chad Frankenfield behind Adriano Pinheiro, because he's kind of trying to use a different line to get some clean air. So it's going to be interesting to see how many people go ahead and go about this race here.
Absolutely. That's one of the keys that we've been watching out for at all the tracks we go to here so far, and especially the 3 ovals that we visited so far this season is, are there multiple lines available to these drivers? Because that obviously allows for some closer racing. If you have just that single line, you don't always get that quality of racing spread out early on. Right now, it seems like drivers, though, are favoring this bottom lane all the way around the racetrack. They'll obviously track up wide, but through the corners, that bottom seems to be preferred early on. As the tires wear, as fuel burns, we'll see if they shift or if guys decide to take different approaches. Here you see a little bit more of a mid-line for Nicholas Sudik, even Dalton Fredericks, a couple of car widths above the bottom of the racetrack, but then you see Rodrigo Franzoni on the bottom making that work and making some headway, but he touches the apron there, and that's going to force him to check up.
Yeah, you see how he shoots up the track there. The car is ultra sensitive right there, especially touching the apron, but not only sensitive just because of touching the apron, but also because of that aerodynamic wash from behind the car in front. It's interesting how that is. Yep, right there, exactly. It's interesting to see how these sim racers are going about this.
absolutely there. We saw, I think that was Nicholas Sudik there, just as you were talking about the aerodynamic effect, you saw the wash that he had as, is there an issue on the racetrack?
No, there was a slight touch by Nicholas Sudik into the wall there from my end there. As he's coming off turn 4 this last time by, he was behind the 13 of Rodrigo Franzoni, and he slightly washed up into the wall there coming out of turn 4.
All right, we'll keep an eye out on the handling of that 87 car, Nicholas Sudik. He's looked strong at these types of racetracks so far this season. We're looking to see if he can make some forward momentum. Qualified 10th and is currently running 10th. Up front, it is Adriano Pinheiro, almost a second out in front of Chad Frankenfield. He's had a very impressive start to this one. Frankenfield then, there's the look behind the 15 car back to the 91 of Ethan Stanley, also up 2 positions from the start. Eric Troiano, we mentioned, dropped at the start, didn't quite react extremely well to that initial getaway from Pinheiro, but he settled in line. Biggest mover right now is 7th place Justin Fortner, up 5 positions from his starting position. So we'll keep an eye out and see if that's forward momentum, if he just got a really good start and is settling in here, or if he's got the pace on that car. That last lap there, a little bit slower than Van de Sant in front of him, but still staying close to the number 1 car.
Oh yes, as you were talking, I noticed that Joe Hutchings, he came off of pit road, and I'm not sure if there was any problems on the start or not. As I was looking to the field on my end, I didn't see anything, but I'm not sure what happened to Troy there. Or Joe,
Yeah.
My fault, Joe.
Yeah, Joe Hutchings here, Revline Motorsports car, number 31, running in the 27th position. Unfortunate for him, did see him enter pit road, but yeah, unfortunately not too sure the symptoms there for that 27 car, but a rough start to the night now as he's already over 1 lap down from our leaders.
Oh, let's go ahead here and let's check out Dalton Fredericks currently, because this battle with Dalton Fredericks and Nicholas Sudik is actually going crazy right.
Yeah, this is a heck of a battle here. We've got Nicholas Sudik, Dalton Fredericks, and is that Cesar Cabral there working the inside of Fredericks? It is. Cabral going to try, but he has to settle back in line with the American driver, the 00 running up high. Dalton Fredericks been very impressive so far in his rookie season. Looking forward to seeing what the young driver can do. And a reminder for those watching at home, those drivers with the yellow marking next to their names, that yellow number, that's going to imply your rookies here. Those blue numbers are all of your veterans, so keep an eye out there for those drivers. But Dalton Fredericks, top of the rookies so far tonight. Cesar Cabral, though, looking very strong as well. He's up 2 positions from his starting spot and is looking to move forward right now on the American.
Rish, I would like to talk to you a little bit about what's the pit strategy going to look like here. Is there a certain amount of laps these drivers need to pit by to maybe make do they need to make a certain amount of stops to make it to the end here? What's the pit strategy looking like, essentially, is what I'm asking.
Yeah, it's tough to gauge and know for sure. I'm not sure if we have much of a history at this racetrack either. I'd actually have to go back and look through some of our record books as to the history here of Nashville Super Speedway in the INDYCAR Series. But I'd probably gauge a guess of maybe, I'd say maybe 50 laps, 55 laps that these drivers can probably do on a tank of fuel. That would be your limiting factor here, I would assume. Though, of course, the concrete surface may be more abrasive and tire wear becomes more and more of a factor. But as we look at things right now, we are currently, 14 running lap 15 in this race, and drivers have really only fallen off about 1.5 tenths of a second in terms of lap time, which around an oval like this is not insignificant, but far from the the tire drop off that we may be used to seeing on the NASCAR side.
I think it's going to be tougher on a lot of these guys in the back too, because all of these guys in the back are going to be pushing really hard to try and make up positions currently, because you want to be up front, because clearly trying to follow someone is going to make you wash out wide if you are behind them, and that's going to chew your tires too, unless you are actually pretty good with saving tires. But I don't know. We're going to see how the pit strategy turns out. I just felt like I needed to ask the question.
Yeah, and it's going to be something that we're going to find out here together. I think that's going to be exciting to watch as there is a little bit of a question mark, especially around this first run. We'll potentially be able to find out, as the race plays out here. But obviously, keep an eye out still on Adriano Pinheiro. Right now, still just under a second ahead of Chad Frankenfield. But more critically for him, he's led a large number of laps at this racetrack. Last time we were here, he led the most laps. Unfortunately, a late race incident put him down the order and handed that victory to Alex Van de Sant. Though to his credit, he led 76 laps as well. Van de Sant and Pinheiro, two drivers that you're always going to have to watch out for here. As Pinheiro, I think, is without a doubt one of the quickest guys we have in the league. Though sometimes has struggled with consistency. I think this season he's been a lot better. And, of course, Van de Sant, your two-time defending series champion, knows everything about consistency and thinking that long game to get to the end of the season and be champion. There's a reason he carries that number 1 on his car there.
Yeah, Alex Van der Sant is probably one of the best in this league so far currently, if I must say so myself. But I don't know. Well, the reason I mentioned that last statement I made about strategy is because I was watching Nick DeGroot and Dalton Fredericks, because those two have been battling for a little while here, and that I feel like they are probably chewing through their tires a lot, and that's what it looks like to me. I'm not sure what the lap times are looking like exactly right now, but it just seems like these guys are battling hard, trying to get to the front, and I feel like the best advantage is to be out front, as Adriano Pinheiro is currently.
Absolutely, and I think you got that spot on there. That last lap, both those drivers significantly slower than just about everybody around them. Fredericks that last time by running a 24.0. Nick DeGroot actually just got a little bit better there, back to a 23.89, but both of them were in the 24s when just about the rest of the field is running around 23.7s. So big difference there between them, and like you said there, that battling is really hurting them. And for Fredericks, he right now is kind of on a backward slide of potentially burning through those tires just a little bit too much, a little bit too early, as Cesar Cabral has a little bit of an issue, drops a spot there, but back running. So that might have been what we call netcode here in iRacing, where basically driver's internet connection or something drops out, and sometimes that'll actually end up slowing the car down. You'll kind of stop there, but good to see he's back out on the track, and hopefully those issues don't persist. We've definitely seen those ruin certain drivers' nights before, so hopefully we don't see any more of that. But a little bit further up front, Justin Fortner right now with Rodrigo Franzoni just behind him, and Jared Rexing and Alexander Van de Sant could be a good battle, slowly brewing up. But right now it's a pretty spread field here at Nashville. Not too many cars close together on the racetrack.
Oh yeah, well, I'm currently watching the battle with Michael Hosak towards the back of this pack here, and all 4 of these cars right here and currently in this area right now are actually really battling each other very, very hard. And I'm just watching this passionately because the way these guys are driving each other is amazing, because this track is probably very somewhat difficult because you have to, I feel you have to lift a little bit mid-corner, and and you have to get that lift right, and especially if you're falling behind someone, as I was talking about Wash earlier. And the way these guys, all 4 of these guys that were battling, it was absolutely fascinating to watch.
Yeah, it is great to see, and how are these guys able to duel with one another? And this is a great battle here between Macedo Hosak and Dustin Durer just behind them. They are also chasing down Chris Wright. We mentioned he had a good qualifying. Unfortunately, I think he said that right foot was really bothering him, and I think we're seeing that here. He is running, of course, for points, though, this season, so just trying to get laps in and hope for maybe some early cautions, take out a couple of his competitors, and pick up some points there. But unfortunately not the night that Chris Wright would have wanted, especially with an opportunity like this, having pace in the car. He's looked strong at some of these larger ovals, but unfortunately not able to capitalize on that tonight. Hoping he's feeling better moving forward this season. But yeah, great battle going on here for the 23rd position right now, as Dustin Durer maybe just tapped the outside wall coming off of 2.
It does appear that he might have, because he did drop a big increase in speed there. It's gonna be interesting because it doesn't feel like a lot of these drivers are making mistakes currently. But I feel like as this race goes on, these drivers are gonna start getting mentally tired here, and we're gonna start seeing some mistakes. We're gonna start seeing some cautions. We're gonna get this field bumped back up here soon, I feel, especially if 2 guys keep racing each other like these 2 on your screen with Rodrigo Franzoni and I believe Justin Fortner. Yeah, so it's interesting. I'm just fascinated right now by how these guys are racing each other, and it's clean and it's amazing right
Ooh,
now. Oh,
Fortner.
double tap on the wall there.
Yeah,
I
Fortner
think both
off
of
the
those guys got
outside.
in the wall. I'm pretty sure both of them got in the wall. I think that's why Fortner got in the wall as well. I think he was following Franzoni there.
Well, there you go. A bit of a sympathy scrape on the outside wall then from Justin Fortner, but it certainly looked a little bit more severe on that 20 car, and that's hurt him obviously on this most recent lap after Franzoni went by. Fortner now dropped almost a second behind the driver there of the number 13 car. But yeah, this is going to be an intriguing race. I think you said it earlier, where it's going to be a mental battle more so than anything else. There's not going to be as much, I think, on-track action in terms of dueling between drivers. Hopefully we get a little bit as the race plays out, and we've seen already a couple of battles pop up here and there. But it's really going to be a strategy game, and it's going to be just a pure pace game. I think this is going to be a 200-lap sprint race, really, for these guys. And you know, for those of you at home who've maybe never driven on iRacing, or for those of you who have and aren't quite familiar with this IR18 INDYCAR, this is an absolute knife-edge race car. These drivers have some tools that allow them to change the balance of the car, specifically the weight jacker, as well as some anti-roll bar adjustment, though one could argue that they aren't the most significant in terms of affecting your adjustment. You're really playing with that weight jacker really all over the racetrack. But yeah, I mean, over the course of your fuel run, right, you're changing the balance of the car, you're adjusting the weight jacker, and so these guys have to be on top of that. You know, it's a lapse of, it's a quick mental lapse if you forget to change your weight jacker for a turn, and suddenly the car doesn't handle the way you expect, and that's all it takes. You tap the apron just slightly, the car can spin around on you. You put a little bit too much throttle, this car is going to snap around on you. Very little forgiveness in these IR18s, and so that's something these guys are going to have to watch out for, especially as the race plays out.
Oh yeah, and we're definitely seeing a lot of that in the play already. But I feel most of it right now is just minor mistakes, just exiting the corner with being too much on the throttle as we come out of the corner. But I feel, like I said, as I predict that as we go on in this race, we're going to see a lot more mistakes, because as this green flag run goes and goes and goes, I feel more of these guys are going to start getting like more mentally tired, because they're focusing so much on that weight jacker and that ABS adjustment, as you said. So it's going to be interesting, and I'm really just fascinated by the driving of this league currently.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to keep following this throughout. And of course, one thing we're going to watch out for is going to be pit strategy here. The blend of course, guys who are just coming off of pit road versus guys who are out on older tires, a little bit less grip, that kind of thing, is also going to play into effect. So many different factors that need to be accounted for. But, man, I'm just not seeing this tire wear that one would maybe expect from an abrasive surface here like Nashville. Last time around, Chad Frankenfield in second place put his best lap of the race down. So the fuel is burning off at the same rate that these tires are wearing, and we're just not seeing a drop in lap time from any of these drivers.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like anybody has really met the abrasiveness of this track. But I did want to talk a little bit about the lines, because that is something I mentioned earlier. Looking at the high line, when you normally at any track, the high line normally has the momentum coming off the corner. But here at Nashville, it seems like the momentum is more geared towards the bottom of the racetrack. And as we keep going in this race, I think a lot of people have figured that out, that the bottom is the momentum giver, and you want to have the bottom entering or exiting a corner.
Absolutely, and yeah, especially it likely makes sense, as this is more of a single file type race that we're seeing here, where again you are just kind of opening up the radius of that corner. So yeah, interesting to see here the way it plays out. Again, we're just not seeing.
Oh, we just got Chris Wright in the wall really hard.
Ooh.
Chris Wright in the wall really hard.
Chris Wright.
Not sure if there's damage. Not sure if there's damage on that car, but he definitely made heavy contact coming out of where they're being behind Dudas Castroneves there.
All right, well, we're going to head on to the Whiskey Cast replay, take a look at Chris Wright, and see how this affected his race. Remember, driver the number 57 car, dealing with a foot injury here tonight, just trying to get laps completed. Looks like he just gets tight, taps that outside wall, keeps it pointed, though, in the right direction, and continues on. But yeah, that's not great there from Chris Wright. Unfortunate for him. He, though, is still on the racetrack. Looks like all 4 wheels pointed in the right direction, so no toe links damaged, and I think he escaped pretty lucky there.
Oh, yeah, he made extreme contact, or at least it looked like from the sparks that came off the car there. I thought it was going to be much worse because of the way the car snapped after he hit the wall there.
For sure. So back up front here, we've got a little bit of a closer battle starting to form. It's really been Rodrigo Franzoni who's been pushing this front group back together, and the driver, the number 13 right now, is putting in some stellar lap times. That last time around, 1/10 of a second faster than Van de Sant, 2/10 faster than Rexing, 2/10 faster than Troiano, a whopping 5/10 of a second faster than third place Ethan Stanley. We're going to have a very close battle on our hands here for the 3rd position, as all of these guys are starting to bunch up here, and it's all starting here with Rodrigo Franzoni kind of pushing them all together. But we've got a unique situation here in the racetrack where all the guys behind are putting in faster lap times than the guys in front, and it could lead to some fantastic racing here relatively shortly. First, though, on Franzoni's list is going to be your defending series champion, Alex Van de Sant. It's been a slow start to the season for Van de Sant. He hasn't just quite been able to get the results he's been wanting. He's been ridiculously consistent, and he's been doing what he's known best for, which is just continuously putting that car in top 5, top 3 positions. But I'm sure he's hoping for a win. He's looking back at past seasons where he's had multiple wins and is hoping to break through again here. But right now he's worried about Franzoni. Looking to the outside, all the way up the racetrack goes Rodrigo Franzoni. He's going to try, not quite able to get there, but he's going to have to run down this back straightaway. Dives to the inside lane. He's going to be there at the left rear wheel of Van de Sant, and he's got the preferred line in 3 and 4.
Oh yeah, he's probably gonna pull out ahead of him here down the front straight a little bit, but it looks like the momentum came off very evenly there. Interesting, because I felt as if watching some of these guys, maybe they were conceding when I was watching some of them battle, but it felt like the outside line didn't have as much momentum as I thought it was going to. But it kind of shocks me to see that Alex Van de Sant right here is keeping that high line fairly consistent. It looks like maybe he's pulling the air off of the 13 of Rodrigo Franzoni. So I'm not sure how this little line thing is going to work out, how this line situation is going to work out, but it's going to be, like I said, it's interesting because I'm just fascinated by how these guys are going about this, and I just don't see where I know at some point there's going to be some type of issue, because we've already seen a bunch of guys like tap the wall coming out of turn 4. It's going to take one mental slip, one exact mental slip, one bad adjustment, and it's going to happen.
Absolutely, but incredible defensive driving from Alex Van de Sant, working that outside lane, and regular viewers of the INDYCAR Series and of Cup Series will know that Van de Sant is one of the first drivers to try the outside, and now it's Ethan Stanley's turn to try and defend on the outside, but it's not quite enough because Rexing gets on by the 3rd place driver, as Troiano already has, and for Ethan Stanley, it is a quick descent down the field right now for the driver in the number 91 car. Maybe just burned through his stuff a little bit too quickly. It's a little bit strange to see here because he's dropped off more than just about any other driver in the field. Ethan Stanley, great start, got his way up to 3rd on that initial start, passing Troiano, peelable there from the 91 car. To see this drop in pace.
Big check up there for Ethan Stanley.
Very close call with Rodrigo Franzoni. But yeah, 91 car is falling backwards fast, and he's hoping, I think, that he's close to his pit window, because I think he needs to come down pit road here relatively soon. He needs to be the one to initiate that call for all these front runners, force them all to come down on his terms, because that 91 car right now is struggling big time out there, and I think he's going to do that. He is on pit road. He's on the apron. Ethan Stanley, the first of our leaders to hit pit road here tonight, and he desperately needed that too.
Do you think this pit strategy could possibly work out for Ethan to get him maybe to gain a few positions? Because if any of these front leaders like Adriano Pinheiro and Chad Frankenfield and Eric Troiano, if they don't pit here soon, do you think that maybe we could see this fall back into Ethan Stanley's hands?
I struggle to see that because of the lack of tire drop-off. This feels like the type of race here where if I were on one of these drivers' boxes calling strategy, I'm going to say run this tank out of fuel. Every single run this tank out of fuel so your last stint is as short as possible, or depending on how, of course, cautions fly. But, you're just not dropping pace on your tires here. So as much as he dropped off there, as much as, as Ethan Stanley dropped off there, he's going to have a really tough time recovering any of that gap there with how quick the leaders are still running. Again, I mean, we're looking at Pinheiro here, 23.62 his last time around versus a 23.55, which is the best overall lap of the race. So it's ridiculously tight in terms of lap time. I just don't know if there's going to be much advantage to gain by pitting early. But to be fair, for Stanley, it was necessary. He was otherwise going to just continue dropping. Frenzoni also on pit road. He might be trying to make a move here. Remember, he was right there on the tail of Alex Van de Sant. Dropped off a little bit before he came down pit road. But that could be another thing that we're seeing here as Van de Sant responds directly to try and take away that advantage that Frenzoni's trying to gain here.
Oh, yeah. Do you think maybe this is where we could see an issue with some of these guys with as you said, that tire fall off isn't as great, but I feel like you're going to be a little faster on newer tires. Do you think this is where we could maybe see an issue before some of these guys and everybody pits here?
Absolutely. I mean, green flag pit stop cycle is always notorious for potentially causing issues. You've got guys who are, running a little bit further down the order, who suddenly have track position. And maybe aren't as willing to give it up quite yet, hoping for that caution, things like that, especially with how close lap times are here tonight. So that could make life a little bit difficult here for these leaders who are trying to work their way back through and who are pitting a little bit early as Chad Frankenfield, Jared Rexing, both on pit road as well. Pinheiro, your race leader, staying out, I think, as long as he could. I'm going to guess that this is fuel that's pulling him into pit road here on lap number 60. Which tells me that we're going to be looking at least a 3-stop race here. So, yeah.
Yes.
This,
yes. I think. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think this is going to be interesting. If it is 60 laps here on a tank of fuel, you can also wonder, what fuel map are these guys running? You can typically change that fuel map, save a little bit of fuel. There's ways, of course, that you can extend your runs here, but surely seems like a 3-stop type race. But Pinheiro, if you're in his shoes, you want to go as long as possible. You want to run that ideal strategy. You're not really racing anybody, and so you're just thinking of, again, on that last restart, whatever it is, whenever it is, taking the least amount of fuel, getting on and off pit road as fast as possible, because that right now is where it looks like you can gain the most positions as a yellow flag, pit stop under caution. If you do lose track position for any reason, if you can be quick on pit road, you can gain a ton of positions right there, and that's a huge advantage in your favor. So you got to be thinking long term in that respect. But big pace right now from these guys, and it looks like the track might actually be speeding up too, which might have explained why that first stint we were seeing guys not really dropping off, because Alex Van de Sant just threw in a stonking lap there at 23.33. That's 0.2 of a second faster than the previous fastest lap time around here. Chad Frankenfield, Jared Rexing, and Rodrigo Frenzoni all put in personal best lap times on that last lap, as well as has Nicholas Sudik, Dalton Fredericks. The timing and scoring sheet is coming up green and purple here for all these drivers right now. So track is ramping up in terms of speed. Also going to be a factor if potentially there may be some more mistakes. Another fastest lap for Van de Sant, 23.32. This is impressive pace here that we're seeing from these guys. And what I'm thinking is, rubber on the racetrack, the sun's gone down, it's getting cooler, we're getting further into the night. All these favor into more grip, and drivers now need to respond to that. This car is going to maybe tighten up just a little bit as you've got this more grip. So you got to get on that weight jacker, make sure you're making the right adjustments so it's right where you like it in terms of balance.
And that was going to be another one of my points, is that as this track gets quiet, or as this track gets into the nighttime and it starts gripping up and the rubber starts laying down, I feel like this is when you're going to have to nail right on the head when you enter pit road, because you have to make your pit road entrance perfect, you have to stop in your box perfect, and your exit has to be all perfect, because if not, one little single slip up, that's the end of your race for this race, and you lose every single bit of track position for this race.
Absolutely, yeah. This is unbelievable to kind of see this level of track ramp up. We talk about it, now and then, and we have a little bit of it here and there, but not really to this extent. And it certainly benefited here Alex Van de Sant up into third position of that last pit road cycle, and you see the advantage actually on and off of pit road that he has over Rodrigo Frenzoni. Van de Sant 4 seconds up the road. Remember, these guys were side by side right before they came into pit road. So those initial couple of laps there from Van de Sant, the ultimate pace, I think, is with that one car. What's going to be interesting is to see if we see what we saw in the initial stint, which was Franzoni maybe not having that all out, kind of outright pace, but over that course of a fuel run, over the course of the tire range, he's just able to stay consistent, put in the same lap time, basically lap and lap throughout, and close back in on Van de Sant. But 4 seconds there on that last cycle is a big gap to lose. Stanley, the biggest loser on that most recent cycle, now sits 6.5 seconds behind Alex Van de Sant, and that battle that we saw that was so tight on the racetrack all of a sudden is ridiculously spread out here.
I feel as long as Chad can get back here, save a little bit of fuel and save a little bit more tire than what Adriano Pinheiro can here, this can fall right into Chad Frankenfield's hands, because looking at the interval, he's not super far behind and he's perfect within the striking distance of getting to Adriano Pinheiro if Adriano Pinheiro has some type of issue or some type of pit lane penalty. And it's going to be very interesting to see what Chad does here, to see how he adjusts to what Adriano Pinheiro does to try and get this win here.
Yeah, absolutely. You cannot fault Chad for anything that he's done here tonight. He has been matching Adriano Pinheiro as closely as one could, but it's just little areas here and there where, and especially I think a good chunk on that initial start where Pinheiro just had such a good start, created that gap in the first couple of laps, and for Frankenfield, he's maintained that gap all race long, but hasn't really been able to close. As I say that there, though, just pulls off 0.2 of a second, and that's because for the first time really tonight, Adriano Pinheiro is having to deal with two back-to-back cars in traffic, and this is where kind of the race could change up. Look at this in front of him. You've got car after car after car, all pretty much equal intervals. So suddenly the only man tonight who's had totally clean air, doesn't have that advantage anymore. So this could swing in Frankenfield's favor if he can clear traffic just more effectively, more efficiently than Pinheiro can.
Oh yeah, and I want to say how we're looking at Pinheiro here on your screen. Look at how perfect his steering. I look at his steering angle. It doesn't look like he has to move it much. And whatever he did with the setup, I'm not sure if this is a fixed setup suit or not, but it seems whatever the setup is, this setup is quite perfect for what Pinheiro feels here. He's got a lap car right here to his right as he's trying to get around that car. A little bit of issue for that car ahead of him as well. But look at Pinheiro's steering angle. It's not much as he goes through these corners, and that's interesting because like these corners are very, very sharp, but as the aerodynamics on this car allow you to be able to keep the car more flat out than anything else would actually be able to do around here.
Absolutely. It is an overall fixed setup league. However, there are certain adjustments that drivers can make. We mentioned a couple of them earlier. The weight jacker you can do live in the cockpit, as well as your anti-roll bars, both front and rear, as well as brake pressure, which I would assume isn't too much of a priority here around Nashville Super Speedway. However, on pit road, you are able to make some other adjustments as well, or at least not during pit stops, but before the race, all these drivers will put in practice laps, and you can actually make some changes to your, like you were just talking there with steering, you can make changes to your steering rack ratio, and basically set it so that you're turning the right amount that you feel comfortable with for this for the type of racetrack here. And you know what, I spent a lot of time on the NASCAR side of things here in the elite racing leagues as a crew chief. And I do know that steering ratio has a huge effect, not just on your overall lap times, but on the way your tires degrade. You can scrub off a lot less rubber with certain steering ratios. Typically slower ratios tend to lend to kind of better tire wear, but lower overall pace. So you'll see guys kind of split sometimes on that kind of methodology. And always something that's interesting. We don't hear much about that, of course, when we of course talk to the drivers or talk about these races here. But something that you have to pay attention to if you're a crew chief, if you're a driver. These are all little adjustments that make a massive difference at the end of the day, and you're seeing how well it's working here for Pinheiro.
Yeah, it's the little things. It's always been the little things that you have to pay attention to here in this IndyCar series, and it's what makes this such a mental struggle. Oh, and actually on lap 60, as Michael Hosak was entering pit lane, he got hit in the rear end by, I believe that was Eric Troiano, I believe. Yeah, Eric Troiano hit Michael Hosak in the rear end on lap 60, and Michael Hosak has been in pit lane that since that has happened.
All right, good to see. There would have been lap 60 probably for Michael Hossack. So 2 laps ago. We can hop on over to that Whiskey Cast replay here and take a look. Excuse me. There we go. And take a look at what did actually happen between these two drivers. Nothing popped up there on the on timing and scoring, but I think what we have seen really tonight has just been I think from drivers here. Here we go. There's Hossack on pit road. But yeah, I mean we've seen contact between drivers, but it's really mostly been kind of a light contact. Guys will brush the wall and kind of be back on the racetrack. But I'm actually not seeing anything here from Hossack on the replay here.
Lap 60.
Yep.
Interesting. Maybe 59 because it was somewhere around that time.
Alrighty, but either way, back to live pictures. We can see if we can find that at a different point in the race. But yeah, Hossack already was running a little bit further down the order there. Unfortunately, in the 24th position now, but is currently running almost 20 laps down from our leaders. So something to keep in mind there for the 24 car. It hasn't been the most straightforward night for him. Meanwhile, up front, 5th place, Rodrigo Franzoni looking to make that 4th place. Chasing down Jared Rexing right now. He's closed that gap up very effectively, and Rexing, another one of those guys who had kind of good initial laps, but right now looks to be dropping off. And I think what I said about Franzoni a little bit early on may be spot on, because I'm looking at lap times that 13 car has been doing, and they're basically within a tenth of a second every single lap, starting with that very first lap that he did on the set of tires. So again, outright pace, not with the 13 car. At least not right now. He may be holding back, at least initially, in order to have the kind of runs that he has right now, because it looks like it looks to me like Jared Rexing has burned through his tires, and to a certain extent, I think he has. He's running 24.09s as Franzoni's trying to get by him. Versus where he should be, which is 23.5s, 23.6s, 23.7s for a car running in the 4th position. But yeah, Rexing right now I think also struggling as we're just 25 laps though into this run, so he has a long way to go before he's able to get off these tires. So he's gonna have to find something that works for him, because the drop off is hitting this 10 car pretty hard.
Oh yeah. So as I'm watching Chad Frankenfield right now, I wanted to ask you, Rish, is what if you were Chad Frankenfield, what's going through your head right now? Because you are matching Adriano Pinheiro every lap here, but it doesn't feel like maybe you're gaining, or maybe he's just holding back currently to save a little more extra towards the end here. But he's stayed consistently around 1.7, 1.8 tenths back on Pinheiro. If you're Frankenfield in this position, what is something you would do to change maybe the dynamic of this race?
I think there's not much you can do if you are Chad Frankenfield, because right now it's been a really straightforward race, and right now you got to be asking yourself here in the past 10 laps, how has Pinheiro pulled out that extra second, right? Because we were talking 10 laps ago, this was a 1 second gap between them, and Frankenfield had it down as far as 3/4 of a second. And what it is Pinheiro is still setting personal best lap times here through traffic. He's effective through traffic. Lap after lap, we're talking they're close, they're matching each other, but to the extent that they're matching each other within a tenth of a second, you break it down to the hundredths of a second, and each lap it looks like Pinheiro is gaining maybe half a tenth here and there, and that builds up over all these laps. And for Frankenfield, you feel like you're doing everything, but it's just hard to compete with that 56 car. And Pinheiro, in terms of outright pace, in terms of just outright ability, especially on these big ovals, it really feels like sometimes he is second to none. The kind of pace he can extract from his race car. So if you're Chad Frankenfield at this point, you're hoping for a caution, I think is your best bet, or you're hoping for a mistake from Pinheiro, because from a pure pace point of view, I just don't see the 15 car having anything for Pinheiro at this point in the race.
Yeah, I can agree with that as well. I just wanted to get maybe a little read on what you had to say there, if it was maybe it had been something different. But yeah, I perfectly agree with you. Frankenfield can just do all he can do here and just pray that somehow this can come back to him. But Pinheiro has been absolutely dominant since the drop of the green flag, and he got that beautiful jump as you mentioned, and he's not looked back since. So very, very interesting.
Absolutely, and as we look here at Pinheiro, it is going to be something worth watching because the way he has worked his way through traffic has been, I mean, nothing short of heroic. The fact that he's extending his gap and continues to do so here, lap after lap, it feels like Adriano Pinheiro has found another gear that he didn't even need here tonight. He was cruising, I think, and had it, and he's decided here, no, I'm going to push these next couple of laps, and he's finding some incredible pace here late in the tire run. Again, we don't know track conditions if they're getting a lot better. It looks like they're kind of the tires are dropping off to the same point they were, so it looks like track conditions generally have stabilized at a particular point. Probably since the first round of pit stops, but man, I mean, yeah, just the pace that 56 car is able to pull out there, lap after lap here, this deep into a run, is again nothing short of extremely impressive. 35 laps into this one, we do have a battle out here on the racetrack. It is for the final couple of positions in the top 10, and it's going to start here with Cesar Cabral here working Justin Fortner. Fortner had a great start to the race, worked his way forward, was one of our biggest movers initially. But since then has struggled with outright pace. I wonder if again we talked about that track conditions changing, kind of gaining grip. I wonder if that maybe played a little bit out of favor for Justin Fortner. He was liking maybe a bit more loose nature on the racetrack, and now isn't quite able to get the car in the same window that was working for him earlier.
It also could be because maybe there was a error on pit road or something at some point, and that kind of put him behind. And I'm not sure what is happening with Fortner, and I hope that maybe he can be able to get this race back to his hands because, as you said, he had a great start, but it just for some reason it's just there's not been pace there since that start. So after that first stint was over, is what I should say actually, but. Yeah, I'm just interested to see how Fortner can come back from this and maybe make up positions here. But it seems like he can have a chance to make a few positions back because he has just now passed Dalton Fredericks and he is looking to pass Cesar Cabral. So it's going to be interesting to see how he can get these positions back from what he has lost earlier.
For sure, we'll keep an eye out there. But Cabral now working Nick DeGroot, or at least trying to get a little bit closer there to DeGroot. It's been a little bit of a quiet night there for last year's Indy 500 runner-up. Looking to, of course, go one better this season as we work towards the Indy 500 later this year. But DeGroot right now up 5 positions inside the top 10. Usually looks strong at these larger racetracks. He often comes on very strong towards the end. One of the most consistent guys that we have here in the Mega Driver 86 INDYCAR Series. So keep an eye out on him. But right now, Cabral with some great just outright pace in that 70, and he dives to the inside in 3 and 4. DeGroot's going to have to defend 2 lanes up towards the high line of the racetrack. And we'll see if he can emulate what Alex Van de Sant did, though right now it looks like Cabral just has that much more pace over the 89. But we'll take a look at the run off the corner. Not quite able to hold on there, and Cabral then makes his way inside the top 10, past DeGroot, and now sets his sights on Ethan Stanley just a second and a half up the road. Meanwhile, Jared Rexing now under attack from Eric Troiano. So little battles popping up here and there, especially as the run goes on. I think we're seeing guys starting to struggle with tire wear. Again, we're getting to that point in the run here where tire wear is becoming a factor. I think some are more affected by it than others. But now that, again, the track evolution has stopped, we're now starting to see, I think, more consistently throughout the run order, guys dropping off in terms of lap time, and we're seeing that relatively consistently. The guy to watch out for, of course, is going to be this man right here, Rodrigo Franzoni. Last time around, 0.2 of a second faster than Alex Van de Sant. Unfortunately, though, he's been trying to clear traffic, and that's hurt some of his progress as Van de Sant matches that time this time by, and that gap just kind of stagnates again at 5 seconds. So was making some progress, kind of stalled out a little bit there, and unfortunately for him. But here we go, back to Troiano versus Rexing. They're going to have to get by the Michael Hossack lap down car. Hopefully he doesn't make life too difficult for them, and they can resume their battle. Victor Del Porto may join that as well sometime soon.
It does appear that have been some green flag stops starting here in the past few laps. I think Yari Prabhakar, he is on pit road currently, and I'm not sure. It looks like he may have had something go wrong for him. I'm not sure. I'm gonna back this up so I can see, but he is on pit road, and he has been on pit road for quite some time now, it seems. So interesting change of pace for Yari there.
Yeah, not too sure where that happened there for Jari Brubaker. I'm going to scroll quickly on through.
Oh yeah, lap 99 coming to 100. He got into the wall very hard off turn 4, so it must be something with a toe link or suspension damage there.
Unfortunate to see there for excuse me, Frankenfield. I saw a bunch of cars passing
Yeah.
Frankenfield. I was worried about that 15 car in the wall, but just hitting pit road there. Early stops for these guys, thinking of breaking down this this final stage of the race, the second half, and maybe thinking of doing it here with maybe two 50-lap or so runs or 45-lap runs. So shortening that out just a little bit, I think, again, especially as maybe the tire's wearing down a little bit more here later into the night, or at least you're feeling the effect of that a little bit more later into the night. So interesting move there. We'll see now. This is where you kind of bring back the discussion of the undercut. It does start to become more feasible because suddenly the tire drop-off and the pace drop-off over the course of a run is suddenly more substantial. And so these guys who are pitting in a little bit earlier may find an advantage. Adriano Pinheiro, though, your race leader, staying out still, but he has quite a bit of a gap to work with, so maybe not as much pressure from him. He might just be sticking with the original game plan.
Oh yeah, it seems like he's very comfortable with what he is running with right now, and if I am him, I would be, because you've had a fairly decent lead this entire race. You have had no real competition this race. Why change what's broken? You know what I'm saying? So in my opinion, if I'm Pinheiro, I'm going to run as long as I can on this stint and try to make this last here.
Yeah, this will be interesting to see. Again, this race here between these guys on and off of pit road. You need to have a strong outlap. You need to have a strong in-lap. And how about this from a strong outlap by Alex Van de Sant? What on earth happened to Chad Frankenfield? Because Van de Sant has not just closed the gap, but he's overtaken the 15 car for effective second place in this race.
Wow, interesting change of pace here. That is interesting. We love to see it.
Yeah, I'm trying to wrap my mind around what happened. Not a great outlap from Frankenfield, a little bit slower on and off of pit road there, but also not an amazing outlap from Van de Sant either. So something has happened. They weren't even that ridiculously close on the racetrack, but even with Frankenfield pitting in a lap earlier too, Alex Van de Sant overtakes the man who's been running a strong, solid P2 all race long. And I think we've got a battle on our hands, though, coming up here between these two, because two fierce competitors. 1 second, though, already the gap now. Frankenfield struggling to just stay in touch with the one car Van de Sant. Could this be just a strategy masterclass or just a great play from Van de Sant? Brilliant in-lap, brilliant out-lap, brilliant on pit road, enough to make it past the 15.
Definitely. And as you said, could this be a strategic masterclass by Frankenfield? I don't know. We're going to see, because maybe this is him coming in a little bit late, or coming out a little bit late to try and do something a little different, or he's trying to hold back a bunch because he feels like some of these guys may burn through a lot of their stuff here on this last stint and may have to make one more pit stop or maybe close on fuel. We're going to see what Frankenfield does here, because this is one of the ways Frankenfield can come back into this race, catch Pinheiro or catch Van de Sant, and it's going to be interesting.
Absolutely here. So Eric Triano puts in a great lap time from his point of view. Again, all these guys now on fresh tires, so puts in his personal best of the race. Van de Sant, Frankenfield, both of them not putting in the same lap times they were on the last fresh set of tires, but maybe taking a more conservative approach to this particular stint here. 1.1 seconds the gap between Van de Sant back to Chad Frankenfield here. As Pinheiro still out on the racetrack up front, Rodrigo Franzoni and Jared Rexing both come down pit road. Victor Del Porto moves up into the second position as he's trying to stay or prevent Van de Sant from getting his lap back. So even if we do get a caution here, Van de Sant now safe. First car back on the lead lap, relative to Del Porto, so he's actually nowhere near back on the lead lap. But But yeah, just something to keep note of there. So Del Porto giving up that pace right now, but for hopes of maybe, like we were saying earlier, that really short pit stop towards the end of this race.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this pit strategy plays out, because we talked about it. You talked about it a little bit, Rish. We kind of projected 3 stops, and is that going to hold true to the end of this race? I don't know, because that's why I think Frankenfield is dropping, because he's doing this strategically. He's thinking about this. He's trying to make this last stint last, and he's trying to make whatever he can last out of this last stint. So it's going to be interesting to see what these guys do here at the end of this one, because we're coming down to the end of this one. There's 80 laps left in this race, and it's getting good here. It's getting good. It's a strategic race, but it's getting really good.
Absolutely. It's going to be very interesting to see again how this all plays out. But Adriano Pinheiro just keeps pulling rabbits out of hats here tonight. Puts in his personal best lap of the race here on 60-lap old tires. He does that on. So this 56 car, it seems like he's driving with a ton in reserve at this point. So even if he does get a challenge, it looks like he has enough to just keep rolling out there, and it just doesn't look much better than this in terms of what a great drive around this racetrack looks like. Pinheiro 2 seasons ago led 121 laps here at Nashville Super Speedway. If he crosses the line this time by, he will top that number. Reminder, he did not end up visiting Victory Road that time by, so it's still far from over, as Pinheiro does hit pit road finally in that 56 car, far ahead of his competitors.
It looks like he gets it marked down to speed. He gets on the pit limiter perfectly. No issues. Getting down to speed was almost perfect. So let's see how this pit stop goes for him. Let's see how this outlap goes for him. And we're going to see where he winds up after going on a longer stint than 2 other of his competitors, Van de Sant and Frankenfield.
We'll take a look here as he rolls off pit road. Here's Van de Sant in the trial. Well, this could actually be a little bit closer than we might hope. Van de Sant, though, having to deal with lap traffic, and that's going to kill him on the exit here. Down to 2 seconds, 1.5.
Pinheiro is in turn 3 currently, and he is making way already. Let's see how the outlap goes, but Van de Sant has strategized his way up into P2 currently. And if he could have gotten away from this lap traffic, I feel Van de Sant was going to catch Pinheiro there and be a very valid competitor for Pinheiro. But as we see, a lot of this lap traffic is not being very nice to Van de Sant, and it's causing him to lose a lot of time to Pinheiro, and that's frustrating for a driver.
Oh, absolutely, hugely frustrating there for Van de Sant, though. I think the one thing you've got to be pretty happy with if you are him is you probably came down pit road through that cycle about maybe 4 or 5 seconds behind Adriano Pinheiro. You come out here 1.4, and there's still one more pit stop to play in this race here. So Van de Sant, I think, suddenly sees an opening here where I don't know if we had that with Frankenfield. I don't quite know if he had that edge over Pinheiro, but Van de Sant just made up a huge chunk of time there when we didn't think it was possible. And now all of a sudden, I think we could have a race on and off pit road the next time we have green flag pit stops. I don't know if Van de Sant, though, is going to have anything for Pinheiro just yet in terms of outright pace. But certainly do not count out the defending series champion.
That is for sure. You can never count out that number 1 car, Alex Van de Sant, at all. I feel that Adriano Pinheiro is almost got the nail in the coffin at this point, because he's just dominated this race. No one's contested him. Van de Sant is probably the closest. Frankenfield got pretty close earlier, but I feel Pinheiro is probably going to walk away with this one, and I hope to not jinx him as well. Commentator's curse.
Yeah, we know that all too well here at the Elite Racing Network. Seems to hit just about every race that I call. But that's always something to keep an eye out for, and we'll maybe have a little bit of fun with some of these drivers' fates a little bit later in this race, as we always do. But we'll wait on that until around lap 175. Victor Del Porto currently leads the way. He was slightly off cycle from the rest of the drivers. He actually ran pretty long into his initial stint, all the way to lap 64. So you kind of match that to the second stint. He's actually done a little bit more fuel saving again. Don't quite know if he's going to be able to make it to the end on 2 stops. This would be a heroic effort if he could, but he's getting very close to that number here of potentially being able to do so. 64 laps on the first fuel tank. If he can run, he's at 65, 66 this time by. He might just be out of the window there, but he has 20 seconds to play with too. Victor Del Porto, a man who is always one to try and play for that alternate strategy, try and take one less pit stop, try and save a little bit of fuel. Could he suddenly play spoiler in this race? Because that window, it's very, very small, but it may just be open enough here for Victor Del Porto. He's going to have to pull 3 or 4 laps out of his hat, out of a hat though here. I think that's going to be the key for him. But he's put in 2 impressive stints back to back here to start out this race, and just has to put in 1 more in terms of fuel save.
Yeah, for Del Porto right now, it just comes down to how much fuel he gets in the car for this last stint, if that's what he's going to make this last for. Because a lot of these guys are going to pit with about 30 to go or so. Would you agree?
Yeah, I'd imagine probably even 40 or so to go, 40, 45 would be my guess. Guys could take this long. I think you have a very open pit window for guys who just came down pit road recently. Realistically, probably within the next 10 laps, your pit window opens around lap 140. So between probably 140 and 170, like you're saying there, is probably going to be our pit window. We'll see what guys tend to prefer. Some guys like splitting it 50-50 on kind of the last stint, or the last 2 stints. Some guys like running long, like we saw there with Pinheiro and maybe with Del Porto as well. I think Del Porto is an intriguing prospect, considering that he was 20 seconds still ahead of Adriano Pinheiro at the end of that run. If he can cut out that extra fuel stop there, or even just make a ridiculously short fuel stop, it's tough to say. He's now sits 20 seconds, of course, behind Pinheiro. He can gain some positions, I think, on the guys around him, but I'm going to keep following that 27 car and seeing what he does. Right now, his pace seems to indicate that maybe he's not quite going to be able to make it to the end, though.
Right. I was about to ask, do you think if he does make it to the end, and let's say Pinheiro, Van de Sant, and Frankenfield all pit, do you think that Pinheiro could have a chance to run him down by the end of the season? Because we know there's not much tire fall off to this track currently, but it has kind of gotten a little worse as we go into this race here in the nighttime. Well, no, because Pinheiro ran his best lap at 23:54. Actually, he just ran his best lap this past lap as I'm just now talking to you. He ran at 23.47. So that's interesting to see from Pinheiro. It seems like he's picking up the pace for this final stint. So maybe he's gonna, well, not this final stint, but this stint currently. And it's going to be a push stint here, and he's going to try and stretch that lead as much as possible, knowing there is 1 more stop.
Yeah, for sure. And in terms of the Del Porto question, it's tough to say. I don't think, if you are saving that much fuel, I don't know how much tires start to play into it, just because you're not utilizing them at the edge of grip much anymore. You're more dictating your pace off of what your fuel allowance is, more so than what the grip available to you is. So we'll see if we get there. It feels like he's worked enough to at least give himself the realm of possibility, but 70 laps is a long way to go on fuel there. The best he's done so far is 66 on that most recent tank, which is still a hugely impressive effort. But again, he's gonna have to find 4 more laps there. And right now, again, at the current pace he's running, he may also be bailing out of that strategy, because he's running 23.8. That is competitive with just about everybody else here on the racetrack. And I would suggest that that's probably not an indication of the fuel saving that he needs to do along this run. I think if he wants to make it to the end of this race, Del Porto is probably going to have to start saving now. And I don't seem to be seeing that from the 27 car. So a smart effort, I think, to try for that, but just slightly out of reach. If we were talking about a 190-lap race, Del Porto, I think, would be a favorite right now.
Oh, that's for sure. That is definitely for sure. But it did move him into the top 10 in points. So it's top 10. It did bring him a top 10 and get him some decent points from this race. So as that strategy may not work out for the win, he's still going to have a fairly decent points day, because it looks like he went up 9 positions from where he gridded from. So very interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, not a great qualifying, I guess, there from the number 27, but he races extremely well. And again, long run drivers, I think it's hard to find somebody just more consistent and just more reliable than Victor Del Porto. I think he, again, we talked about his fuel saving abilities. We're seeing it on display here tonight, what he's been able to do. He's going to need a Rossi level, kind of, stint here if he's going to want to pull this one off. It's certainly not out of the realm of possibility from what we know up here in the booth. We'll keep an eye out, but Del Porto always puts on a show and always keeps us on our toes in terms of strategy. So appreciate the number 27 for doing that for us. But we'll go back to some of these on-track races. And we've got Justin Fortner and Ethan Stanley here battling it out. Two guys who've had maybe not the nights they've been hoping for. Fortner, remember, again, had a great initial start, has since then fallen back to his starting grid position. Stanley was running in the top 3 after that first stint, dropped off big time.
Oh, they have a car go around on the front stretch. Michael Hosak goes around on the front stretch. Not sure if the caution will come out here as he is in the grass on the front straightaway. But Michael Hosak does go around on the front straightaway here.
Up there you see the replay there. Michael Hosak decides to keep it on the apron and will stay green for now. He'll roll that car back to pit road, and no effect on the overall racing. So honestly, I think good to see there. For racing's sake, maybe we would have wanted another restart, give ourselves a chance to bunch up the field. But I think there's very few chances you get a chance to see a proper fuel strategy, proper strategy race play out, I think, on an oval, and we're getting to see that right now, at least so far, and would love to see this one go all the way through under green, though of course still tough to say whether or not we'll be able to achieve that with over a quarter distance still left to go.
Oh yeah, that's definitely for sure. I'm just interested to see what Del Porto does, because I'm still fascinated by his pit strategy here, because if I were him, I would go through with it. I would just follow through with it and see where it gets me, because, ain't nothing wrong with going for a win, in my opinion. But as I said earlier, it is better for him to probably just take the points. But in my opinion, if I'm Del Porto and I feel confident in that aspect of maybe I can outrun these guys in this last stint, if I'm him, maybe I could try.
Yeah, it's certainly worth trying if that's, again, what he's aiming for. But yeah, we'll keep our eyes out there on the number 27 car. Again, the current pace that he's running at seems to indicate that maybe that isn't quite on his mind, unless, of course, he's kind of just running with that lower fuel map. We don't really know what pace he has in reserves, but we'll keep following that. Meanwhile, though, Chad Frankenfield struggling for pace now that he's dropped down into the 3rd position, and Rodrigo Franzoni could have an opening to get by the driver number 15, Chad Frankenfield, who was in 2nd for a good chunk of this race, over half of this race, suddenly could fall and find himself outside of the podium positions here. With the pace of this 13 car, it really seems like Chad's struggling here.
Yeah, definitely. Something's happened to this car to make him fall off this heavily in pace. I'm not sure what that is exactly, but it's interesting.
Very interesting here to see. So lower line for Franzoni, a little bit higher up the racetrack for Frankenfield, trying to get the runs down the straightaways. But there you see just the power of the draft, the extra pace, the grip that Franzoni has through the corners right now gives him those runs, can match the outside lane, but just not quite able to get by Chad Frankenfield, a great defensive driver, able to really just make that car as wide as the racetrack whenever he needs to. And we're seeing that right now from him, taking away the lines that Franzoni's trying to run, taking away the air more critically on that front wing. And these IR-18s famously, that front wing is just not substantial enough at these super speedways to allow these guys to race closely the way they used to be able to do with the DW12s. And we don't want pack racing, but we do want a little bit more passing. And I mean, IndyCar or Dallara, man, I mean, we need more elements on those front wings because they're just not doing the job, I think, right now. Both here in iRacing or in real life. As Frankenfield, though, bails onto pit road. We said the window would be open from 140 to 170. Frankenfield is picking lap 153 to hit pit road, and this will be his final stop before the end of this race.
Is he going to get it right? We're going to find out here. It's going to be interesting. And this is fun.
Yeah, how's your first Mega Driver 86 INDYCAR Series race going there?
It's honestly amazing. Like the strategy plays that I'm seeing by some of these guys, like we talked about Del Puerto, Pinheiro has just been dominant. To see that Van de Sant somehow surpassed Frankenfield there on that outlap and that in lap as well. Like he put that whole pit cycle right there perfectly together to get past Frankenfield. It's been very interesting to watch as strategy plays out here, and it's been fun to commentate this first race for me, and I hope to commentate many more because this has honestly been very fun.
Absolutely, and well, speaking of fun, let's talk about fun transitions over to our premier sponsors here at the Elite Racing Network, and we'll start with Blue Egg Marketing. Blue Egg Marketing is the marketing department for small businesses. If you're a small business owner, then Blue Egg Marketing is your absolute biggest fan. Whatever your constraints are, they help catalyze creativity, and they will help your business punch well above its weight class. Check out Blue Egg Marketing, proud premier sponsor here of the Elite Racing Leagues for the past 2 seasons. We've also got TA Services on board this season for 2022B for over 36 years. TA Services has been a trusted domestic and international full-service third-party logistics provider offering freight brokerage, managed transportation, warehousing and fulfillment, and cross-border logistics services to shippers all around the globe. TA Services moves what matters to you. And finally, Brixi Cam. Brixi is a venture-backed tech company based in Toronto and Boston. They're on a mission to reimagine the group photo experience. Gone are the days of carrying around a tripod or a selfie stick. They help their customers and users tell better stories around meaningful moments. Tap into nearby cameras across 4 different continents at well-known sports venues and cultural landmarks with Brixi Cam. Thanks to our premier sponsors here at the Elite Racing Networks. And Justin, want to give you another chance here to shout out your podcast.
Yeah, so in the top right corner, you will see the logo of our podcast called the Indy Boys Racing Podcast. It's a podcast we started in January. You can find it on YouTube, Spotify podcast, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, really anywhere you can get your podcast needs and you feel you can listen to it and you feel comfortable with listening to it. So make sure you go over there, make sure you give us a like on YouTube, subscribe to us on YouTube, like our Spotify, give us a rate on Spotify, etc., etc. And it's been fun, it's been interesting, and it's been amazing, is what I must say.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for joining us here in Nashville tonight and at the Elite Racing Networks. Happy to have you guys on board for the rest of the season. And here we go. Alex Van de Sant hits pit road here for his final stop of the day. A reminder that Frankenfield got the undercut by a couple of laps. We'll see if he's able to take advantage of that. As right now he's struggling and at risk of going down a lap to Adriano Pinheiro. But right now is able to stay in front. Van de Sant, meanwhile, rolling off pit road, and looks like he's got a huge gap once again to Frankenfield. So yet again, it seems like Frankenfield just not as affected on and off pit road as Van de Sant, because that gap now is even larger than it's ever been. It's now at 6 seconds between Van de Sant and Frankenfield. So
Wow.
second stop in a row there, and it's. I mean, I'm looking at it. It's about a second on and off of pit road there that Van de Sant gains, but the real advantage must be in the in and out laps. And unfortunately, we don't have enough data to really go down and look lap by lap, driver by driver. But that's got to be it, because I just don't see otherwise how Frankenfield is losing this much time, especially by taking the undercut here. It seems like the way the tires are wearing, you would be stronger at the start of your run, and Van de Sant proves that as he puts in the fastest lap of the race there, his first flying lap out. So it's
23.29. Wow.
It's tough to say exactly, but man, oh man, Frankenfield right now, back-to-back pit stops that just haven't worked out for him, or back-to-back pit stops that have just worked out beautifully for Van de Sant. Incredible in and out laps, and that right there is how you win races, or make up positions at least at racetracks where it's near impossible to make overtakes. Van de Sant's done that, and he showed us how to do that right there. That's an unbelievable ability from him to bring that car aggressively onto pit road and to really push yourself coming off of pit road on cold tires.
Yeah, and it's just incredible to see Van de Sant. Like, he's nailed all of these pit stop strategies here. Like, and for him to be able to jump up this far and be able to possibly, do you think he could have a chance at Pinheiro here with the pace that he all of a sudden has from these like in and out laps?
See, so that's the thing, right? It's going to be really tough until Pinheiro comes down pit road. We're looking at 39 seconds right now between these guys. On and off pit road, you're spending about 40 seconds on pit road with a 38, 37. It's going to be close between these guys. There's no doubt about it. The question is can Van de Sant get a nose ahead? I think if he can get track position, we've got a race on our hands. If Pinheiro comes out of pit road ahead of the one car, I think Van de Sant's going to have a really tough time getting by him, utilizing pace. But right now you can tell Van de Sant is on it. He's pushing right now, trying to close that gap as much as possible. It's, again, 39 seconds right now. I think it might just be too much for Van de Sant to overcome here. But we'll see. Again, it could just be an in-and-out lap that isn't as strong from Pinheiro to kind of sway this in one direction or another. It is going to be very close.
Oh, yes. Yes, it is. The gap is actually at 38 seconds now to Van de Sant for Pinheiro. So he's kind of dropped it down by a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit there. Slowly kind of closing in that gap here. Actually, pretty quickly this most recent lap here, likely because Pinheiro dealing with a lapped car. They're just in front. But this is close. This is going to be interesting to follow here. 38 seconds, like you said there. Just looking at pit in and out times, 38 seems to be the average. Van de Sant is kind of in a league of his own with pit lane time, 37 seconds on and off pit road. I don't know how he's pulling those times like that and not getting speeding penalties. He's just ridiculously quick on and off. And it's not even like it's, I mean, we can take a look here at Van de Sant. But I mean, his pit stops aren't that much quicker than anyone's either. It's time made, I think, coming in and out of his pit box is potentially where a lot of that time is being made up, because his time just in between the two timing lines on pit road is so much less than everyone else's. So impressive job by Van de Sant so far. I think he's done everything he can do. He's just going to keep putting in fast laps and hope that when Pinheiro comes in, it's enough. It's now down to 37.5 seconds. Or excuse me, it's still 38. But it's going to be close. He now has to get by Justin Fortner. He has to clear this 20 car of Justin Fortner quickly and hope he doesn't get held up.
That's for sure.
Air.
Yeah, that's for sure. From seeing Van de Sant, as long as he gets around Justin Fortner here perfectly, he's going to have a fair shot at Pinheiro. This is absolutely astonishing from what I'm seeing from Van de Sant. He's gotten it down to 37 seconds. Well, it's kind of fluctuating a little bit, but it's at 37. He's pushing. He's full bore. Pinheiro's in. Pinheiro's in. This is when we're going to see it. Van de Sant is coming out of 4 right now, actually, as we speak.
Well, he's a lap down.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, my fault.
No, all good. Yeah. I would be excited too. Yeah. I'm watching time and scoring here. So, so yeah, Van de Sant now halfway through the track. He's on the back straightaway as Pinheiro just stops on his pit box stationary for an excruciatingly long 8 seconds. But he also has that first pit box, and here he goes. Pinheiro rolling off pit road as Van de Sant has crossed the start-finish line.
Wow.
It's going to be close
here. This is going to be close. This is going to be so close. He's coming up. Pinheiro coming off of pit road. Van de Sant coming out of turn 2 around the outside. They are right next to each other. Who's going to get up to speed faster?
Van de Sant with the lead over Adriano Pinheiro by half a second. So he has track position now. This is critical. This is huge for Van de Sant. Now what he has to do is make that car as wide as possible and take away the pace advantage that Pinheiro is going to have for the next couple of laps. This is huge, and this is unbelievable on and off of pit road through the cycles by Van de Sant. He's given himself a chance. At the very least, he has given himself a chance here to win this race here and to be competitive with Adriano Pinheiro, who has looked untouchable to everybody else on the racetrack, but now is the hardest part. He's done all the hard work, but there's still one more step, and that's defend against the man who has been fastest, the pole sitter, just the guy who has been consistently strong throughout the run all race long. You've got to get by this lap car, put him between you and Pinheiro on this front straightaway, potentially through the next corners. It's not going to go through turn 1 and 2, though.
That's going to kill his momentum. That kills his momentum a ton for Pinheiro, because this lap car, actually by Van de Sant pulling that lap car a slight bit, keeps him next to Pinheiro, not giving him the ideal line entering into turn 1 and 2. And that absolutely killed Pinheiro a little bit coming off of turn 4 that last time, because he's trying his hardest. And honestly, I don't know how much Van de Sant has burnt up on his tires here, because it looks like there is a pace advantage over Pinheiro, or Pinheiro has pace advantage over him a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah. Pinheiro's going to have pace advantage here for sure. Again, fresher tires by 10 laps, that's always going to be the case. But the question is, can Van de Sant kind of just take care of that advantage that Pinheiro has? So far, it's looked like you have to have a pretty significant pace advantage to get by somebody here at Nashville. But again, new challenge for Van de Sant. 3 lapped cars here battling for position. Musselman, Benedetti, and Burrell all out here on the racetrack in front of the 2 leaders who are battling for their life. And let's not forget, though, these guys, we're saying they're the effective leaders. We still don't know what the plan is with Victor Del Porto. He is your current leader of this race. He's 10 seconds up the road from these guys. We'll keep an eye out on that, but right now we're keeping an eye on this because Van de Sant is having to clear cars as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, though, as they get out of the way for the leader, Van de Sant, they also get out of the way for Pinheiro, so they make Van de Sant's life difficult, and it feels like Pinheiro kind of gets a little bit of a freebie getting by some of these lapped cars, but he's having to work hard here as he gets by. Who is that? Is that Burrell?
Pinch that car wide in the wall, I think, slightly. Who is that, Borelli?
Benedetti, yeah, so, yep.
Benedetti, wow. In the wall, Benedetti goes there. I think he made slight contact at least.
It opens up the gap there, kind of brings Dalton Fredericks back into it and takes off some of the pace from Pinheiro, and now he's got a car between it. Oh, car on the outside wall. That's got to be a caution. There's no way we're staying green here after that. We're still green.
It has not been called. It has not been called.
Unbelievable.
There it's been called. It has not been called.
There it is. Caution's out.
Caution is out.
Caution out on the racetrack.
Caution is out.
All right.
Wow, what a change of pace.
All right, let's head back to the replay, take a look and see what happened. There might have been another incident there too, but it looked like it started between Pinheiro and Musselman, and there it was. And that actually, the initial contact didn't bring out the caution, but it was the secondary contact that brought it out here. And here we go. Let's take a look, because Pinheiro. Okay, this could get very, very interesting now as we head here to the main screen. It looks kind of just like Musselman. Pinheiro just doesn't judge the gap very well. Musselman flying into the outside wall there, unable to keep the car up along that outside wall for some reason. We'll take a look. He dives that down and just
locks the brakes. He locked the brakes there for some reason.
Yeah, we'll see how race control views that, but generally, if there's a crashed car on the racetrack, you're trying to let all these guys get by there. But Musselman takes out Eric Troiano there, who was also having a good race. But we're going back to live pictures because Van de Sant hits pit road.
He's pitting.
Yep. Van de Sant on pit road, as is Victor Del Porto. This plays out beautifully for him. Gives him potentially a chance here. He's back on equal terms, so he'll gain some track position. Unfortunately, I think the win is out of the question for Del Porto, but Van de Sant, more critically, loses this track position here to Pinheiro. I don't know about that call, though, but you're also in a spot where it was probably, from Pinheiro's point of view, just do the opposite. But I think the track position that Van de Sant had was going to be more important than whatever tire advantage Pinheiro had, but now I don't know. I don't love this call from the one car.
Yeah, I that's what surprised me about looking at him going into pit road while we were in the replay. I didn't want to overstep you there by saying that. I was very shocked. My mouth quite literally dropped open, and I'm not sure what that call was. I'm not sure if he felt he didn't have the pace to keep up Pinheiro, but I wouldn't have gave up that track position, as you mentioned.
Yeah, track position just seems so powerful here tonight. That interesting call from Van de Sant. We'll see, of course. It could work out for him. He now has a 10-lap advantage in terms of tires over the guys, actually just Franzoni and Pinheiro. He has Del Porto still in front of him, which, again, I mean, if I see that 27 car coming down pit road, there's no way I'm pitting behind him. I would love to talk to Van de Sant, I think, after this race and see his thoughts on that strategy call if he does finish in the top 3. But still a long way to go, of course, in this race. But we are within the final 25 laps, and we missed that action because we were calling the great battle we had for what we thought would be the lead of this race. But we have a tradition here on the Elite Racing Network, Justin, where 25 laps to go, you get to make your pick for who the race winner is. We're 16 laps to go. We missed the mark a little bit, but we got a caution. We got a low fields reset. Who do you think is going to be the race winner here after we go back to green?
I'm going with the man that's been dominating all day. I'm going Pinheiro. I'm going Pinheiro all the way.
That's a smart call there. It's tough to bet against Adriano Pinheiro at this point. I'm gonna go with Alex Van de Sant. I think he lost the track position. I don't know. He has had the best short run pace though of anybody that we've seen. Every single time he's come off pit road, he's put in purple lap times. He's continued to improve his pace. He's continued to get better and better. But my only concern with Van de Sant is clearing Frenzoni and Del Porto quickly enough where he can attack Pinheiro. It's going to be tough. Van de Sant's looked so strong today as well. I don't know if you can go wrong with either of them. Frenzoni as well. Could he spring a surprise? Del Porto has gained so many positions through that strategy playing out for him. Could that play out? So this is big here for this race, and I think we're going to see here. But any one of those top 4 drivers could walk away with this one, and certainly don't count out anybody behind them. Chad Frankenfield looked strong earlier in the night, hasn't quite seemed to have it later in this race, especially on and off of pit road, but we don't have to worry about pit road anymore. So we'll see. This is going to be intriguing. Lights out on the pace car, which means we have 2 laps to go before we go back to green flag racing, but this is going to get interesting.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Pinheiro has the command of this race. He has the opportunity to get a perfect jump here. But what can Frenzoni do? Do you think Frenzoni can try to time it and maybe stay with Pinheiro? But we've seen as at the start of the race, Pinheiro has had beautiful starts. So what is your take here? Does Frenzoni maybe try to time this perfect? And if he does he get around Pinheiro?
It's tough purely because the one thing we didn't account for is lapped cars. There's no free pass, there's no lucky dog, there's none of that here, and so Pinheiro and Frenzoni are going to have a number of cars between them on this restart, and that obviously goes to be true for Van de Sant. You just see Van de Sant cutting out of the screen. You don't even see Pinheiro on your screen here, and that's 3 lapped cars between Pinheiro and second place Frenzoni. Plus more between Del Porto and then Van de Sant. And so, oh man, it does look almost like a little bit of a fumble when it seemed like Van de Sant had an opportunity. I feel like he may have fumbled this one away. I'm still going to pick him. He's still my pick, but I would have loved to see a shootout here between those 2 guys. It's going to be tough for Van de Sant. Look at all those cars in front of that one car. You see him, what is he, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cars deep in the running order, but... Well, we're about to find out here. We'll go back to green flag racing with 13 laps to go. Adriano Pinheiro leads. 3 lapped cars between him and second place Rodrigo Frenzoni. Victor Del Porto, who was on the fuel save strategy, made up a ton of positions, worked out in his favor. But here we go, back to green flag racing. Another great start from Adriano Pinheiro. And now the question is for Frenzoni, how quickly do these lapped cars get out of the way for him, give him an opportunity? But the gap's already 1.4 seconds. It feels almost like it could be game over for the rest of these guys. You then look at Van de Sant, who's now under attack by Frankenfield. Could he lose more positions from when he was looking like at least a guaranteed second? He now sits 5th position as Frankenfield goes flying on by. It's all unraveling for the defending series champion. Meanwhile, Del Porto up in 3rd position now has to defend from Frankenfield. And could Frankenfield again come back and take back over the 2nd place that he ran the first half of this race in? Not so quickly, because Van de Sant back to the inside here on Frankenfield with 12 to go.
Do you think Van de Sant may be pitted to think that he could maybe make up that ground within that time?
I mean, that was
the only reason I feel he could try to even pit there. I'm not sure what that call was.
That's the only call that would have made sense there for Van de Sant, is he for one reason or another. Yeah, cars hitting each other in the background, but nobody in the wall quite yet. Just side-by-side contact, but we're going to stay focused up front here on this battle because Adriano Pinheiro has checked out on this field. It is game over without any incident for that 56 car, because he just put in a 23.06. Del Porto puts his fastest lap of the race. Van de Sant, again, he's ahead of Chad Frankenfield once again, but has to get by Del Porto to even get back into the top 3. He must have thought that he'd get a pace advantage on tires. I don't know if he accounted for the lapped cars. That's a huge, huge miscalculation, I think, on the part of Van de Sant. I think you just had to take the risk on the slightly older tires against Pinheiro, because track position around here tonight has been so important. But we're going to keep an eye out on this. Van de Sant now just 0.3 of a second behind Victor Del Porto. Del Porto, can he hang on to a third-place finish? That would be impressive run from him all the way up from 17th position on the starting grid. Right now, Van de Sant trying to put those fresh tires to good use. Of course, Del Porto also on fresh tires, but we know Van de Sant's been one of the quickest guys out here tonight. So expect to maybe see him making a move here into the tri-oval. Off of turn number 4 they come. We'll see if Van de Sant can get enough of a run. Not quite there. But yeah, I mean, even if he gets by Del Porto, I don't know if he'll be able to even close up on Franzoni. With 7 laps to go, how about this for Adriano Pinheiro? 3.5 second gap over second place, and we restarted just 5 laps ago. Unbelievable pace from the 56 car. Unbelievable thinking on his feet there. Do the opposite of Alex Van de Sant. Stay out on the racetrack. You know, don't have that much wear on your tires. Yeah, that's a conversation. If we do get I kind of want Van de Sant here. Nothing against Victor Del Porto, but I want Van de Sant in the top 3 purely just to ask him the strategy call there on that final caution.
Yeah, I agree. I was wondering if we do post-race interviews here, but yeah, I 100% agree. I hope he does get there to Del Porto so that way we can ask that question. But I'm not sure. Like, that just shocked me. I'm still shocked. But Pinheiro, absolutely dominating this race. Plays it smart. Doesn't follow Van de Sant. As you mentioned, beautiful, beautiful call by Pinheiro. Absolutely mastermind right there. Mastermind strategy. Better than Ferrari, like an F1. So that's kind of funny to me.
Yeah. But yeah, Van de Sant, I guess we got to see if he can get by Victor Del Porto. Del Porto, though, credit to him putting in stellar lap times here on fresh tires. He knows how much of an opportunity he's found him for himself by saving that much fuel and running that late, getting that caution. Unbelievable work and effort from Del Porto to get up here. He's going to defend that 3rd place like crazy, and he's going to be another guy that I'd love to talk to about his race and the planning. I wonder if that was in his plan A to run and do a 2-stop. We'll potentially hear, but it is Brazil 1, 2, 3. That would be also a great result for these guys here, Pinheiro, Franzoni, and Del Porto. And Franzoni just has to look ahead on the racetrack and stare longingly towards Pinheiro. There's nothing he can do right now to catch the driver of the number 56 car. Del Porto right now doing everything he can to defend from Alex Van de Sant, but it's going to be white flag this time by for Adriano Pinheiro, and you cannot deny it that the driver of the number 56 car has not put a foot wrong all night. Alex Van de Sant, for a brief moment, looked like he could give him a run for his money. We looked like we had a race, but the caution came out, and Pinheiro did what he does best. He picked the right strategy. He showed that he had the pace all along. It was in his back pocket because he never really needed it. Adriano Pinheiro, what a drive tonight. Dominant performance, wins the Nashville Indy 200. And maybe only for a moment it was in question, but if you look at the history of this race and you look over at the statistics, nobody's ever going to believe you that it was ever in question for Adriano Pinheiro. What a drive by him. Rodrigo Franzoni, P2. Victor Del Porto puts in a fantastic run. Fuel saving, gets the break on the caution, comes home P3. Van de Sant, P4, might be asking questions to himself after this one, and Chad Frankenfield, P5 at the end of this one. But what a drive by Adriano Pinheiro. Hats off. Win number 2 of the season, and now evens Joshua Chin in terms of wins, and will retake over the championship lead there as well. And I mean, you've got to say that this man, we've talked about him before, his ability to extract performance from the car, but struggle maybe to put together consistency over the long run of the season. I mean, he's been ridiculously consistent this season. Every single race so far, he's been running well up towards the front of the order, and now 2 wins to back up in 4 races. It doesn't get much better than that from Pinheiro. He's going to celebrate, burn it down there on the front straightaway. What an incredible drive by him.
Blow the engine in that thing for all you care, because that was a masterclass, if I must say so myself.
Yeah, impressive drive there, and he'll line up there alongside Rodrigo Franzoni, both of them celebrating on the front straightaway. Del Porto back on pit road, and we'll wait to hear back from our top 3 drivers as the celebrations continue here for your race winner. We're going to show you guys and walk you all through the final results here tonight at the Nashville Indy 200. We'll take a quick look here once we get these pulled up. And there we go. Nashville Indy 200. Race winner Adriano Pinheiro. Rodrigo Franzoni puts together a great running there to finish P2. Victor Del Porto rounds out that Brazilian top three. Alex Van de Sant, Chad Frankenfield, Jared Rexing, Mark Murphy, Cesar Cabral, Nicholas Sudik, and Ethan Stanley rounding out your top 10 as you run through the rest of that top 18. And with that, he's on pit road, and we're going to bring in our third place finisher tonight, Victor Del Porto. Victor, the first thing I have to ask you, were you able to do that race in two stops if that caution hadn't come out?
Good evening, Rishav and Justin. No, unfortunately, I think 4 or 5 liters.
Oh my gosh! But I guess then the caution
Wow.
coming out was the perfect opportunity for you, and you capitalized massively on that to come home with the P3. I mean, talk us through that. Of course, working your way up the order, saving as much fuel as you did early on to give yourself this opportunity and to defend against Van de Sant at the end there to put together a fantastic result.
And thank you very much. Was very difficult for me to save fuel. So when I stopped my last green stop, I did with 70 laps to go. So when I returned to the track, I thought I can't do it. So I started to race it with the normal map engine. And with the yellow flag, I became happy, but with the possibility to try the podium or even the victory. But with the lap cars, I didn't have conditions to try to pass Franzoni and Pinheiro. But it was a very good racing after 2 bad races I had last rounds, I think. So it's a good result. Thank you very much, all my teammates, Thiago Benedetti, Eric Macedo, Carlos Washington, Sandra Gonzalez, Thiago Maicon, Adriano Faporte, Alan Moreira. My sponsor is Pro Race Simuladores. They are releasing this month a new direct drive called Moza. So if you want to buy it, it's a Brazilian product. Access proracingsimuladores.com.br. And I think it's the first 100% podium in Elite Racing League, I think. So I want to invite all of you who are watching right now to follow my channel on Twitch. My channel is Victor the Podu Racer. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Victor. Fantastic drive tonight, and looking forward to speaking to you more.
Thank you.
All right, third place finisher there, Victor Del Porto, and no word quite yet from our second place finisher, but we'll bring in the man of the hour here, Adriano Pinheiro. Dominant drive there. I have to ask, was the plan on the caution there when it came out to do the opposite of Alex Van de Sant, or were you always planning to stay out on the racetrack?
Hello guys, good night. I still speak a little English. I apologize for that. I just want to congratulate the podium, the Porto, and my teammate Franzoni, and everyone for the race. The race here was difficult, but I'm very happy with the result. This victory will help me a lot for the championship. I will not to be able to say much, but I want to thanks the Chad and the Elite Chase League for being so welcome to me, né? And it's a pleasure to be with you guys from the broadcast. I want to congratulate you for the great broadcast and for the work. Yeah, finally, I want thanks my teammates, Brunos, Beto, Franzoni, Novaes, Igon, and I want to thanks my sponsor, Brad King. Um, and finally, I want to send a kiss to a big little girl who become my fan, Giovanna. Good night, guys.
All right.
All right,
Thank
good
you so
night.
much.
Thank you.
Congratulations, race winner here, second of the season. Hoping to see you some more.
Thank you.
All right, Adriano Pinheiro there, race winner. Of course, Brazilian 1, 2, 3. Great to hear from Adriano. We don't always get the chance to speak with him when he does finish on the podium, so great to hear from him tonight. Not sure if we'll get any word from Rodrigo Franzoni. We'll keep an eye out, though, but I mean, let's recap the race there. 200 laps. How about this? Only 6 drivers finishing on the lead lap there, just as the level of dominance that we saw there tonight from Pinheiro and from really these top guys. It did seem like there was kind of a different level that the top drivers were able to achieve here, and we kind of see that on display in the final results of the race.
Oh yeah, that was definitely one of. I'm glad to have been able to commentate that race as my first race, because that was an absolutely astonishing race, and I hope to come back for the Mega Driver 6 INDYCAR Series here soon and commentate with you.
Absolutely, it was an absolute pleasure having you with me up here in the booth. Always happy to bring new people into the Elite Racing Network. I think calling these races is such an absolute blast, and yeah, I mean, we've been fortunate to watch a very intriguing race here tonight. Maybe not as many on-track battles as we've been seeing so far this season, but definitely an intriguing strategy battle that played out. And of course, maybe a questionable call towards the end there that certainly had a factor in deciding this race. But at the end of the day, you cannot fault Adriano Pinheiro for a single thing that he did here tonight. Unbelievable drive, dominant, led the most number of laps, grabbed the fastest lap of the race, of course had pole position from the start, so he kind of completes that impressive run there. Didn't quite lead all the laps, of course, but still a very, very impressive run by Adriano Pinheiro. Tough to do that, I think, at an oval, but yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure bringing you folks at home all the action here on the Elite Racing Network YouTube channel. If you guys are a fan of iRacing or sim racing in general, make sure you check out all the races that we do throughout the week. We have Cup races, we have our Grand National Series, Truck Series, as well as Formula One racing. 4 nights, 5 nights a week here, and it's some spectacular action that you guys will see. So subscribe to the Elite Racing Network. Follow us on Twitter at the Elite Racing Leagues as well. Of course, want to shout out our premier sponsors, Blue Egg Marketing, TA Services, and Brixi Cam. Shout out Mega Driver 86, and of course, shout out Justin for once again joining me up here in the booth. But I think that's going to be all from tonight here in Nashville. Adriano Pinheiro cements his championship lead, or moves into the championship lead with his second win of the season. But we'll see you all, folks, in 2 weeks' time for round number 5 of this 2022B season.